Hello and welcome everybody to this little behind the scenes of my yearly Dragon Ball Z parody. In this video we'll have a look at Dragon Ball Z Parody 2023-2024. So you know I'm not a native speaker, so please excuse me if my pronunciation is a little weird or I have some grammatic errors or something like this. But I wanted to do this behind the scenes in English so everybody can understand this. Here you can see this thumbnail. It is nothing special, it's just one layer of something somebody has drawn. To be honest, I don't know who has drawn this. I wasn't able to give any credits in the credit roll for this. Yeah, but it definitely isn't from me, just so you know. Yeah, here you can see in the layer Dragon Balls Orange. I had this little image just to give me basically the color code of the Dragon Balls to get the color of the text. And here you can see that I did every row individually, so I could position them exactly as I wanted to be. Right, so that's the thumbnail, nothing too special. And let's have a look here. This is the project folder. If you have seen the behind the scenes from my last Dragon Ball Z yearly parody, you're already familiar with my workflow. I'll always start with each project with an input, an output, and a project folder. So basically input are the elements that I need to make the project. Basically any image I've downloaded or any font I have downloaded, everything in that kind. In the output, of course, the final video file will go, or any kind of picture that I've made with Photoshop, anything like this, like that. And projects are, as the name already says, the project files of, for example, Premiere or Photoshop. So let's have a little look. We'll go to input. And here you can already see there are a lot of folders. So the one with the dash here are, I don't know how I could call this, but you already can see here. It's thumbnail, scripts, the logo. The logo means here my little tag here I have in every video. It's a TIFF, not a PNG. And here Bewertungen is something like reviews from my friends. Each of us gave every joke like a score, and with each score I would find the average, and according to each average points I would do the final order of these jokes. So here you just have a quick look at each review each individual joke got. These numbers here are not the final order, of course, they are the order of production, or the order in which they got scripted. They are not the order of appearance in the final video. And here you can see the numbers are like in the German school system. So like a 6 would be the worst grade you could get, and the 1 is the best grade you can get. And I made it a little extra thing that you could give a 0 to 2 jokes that you think are the best of the bunch. Yeah, and then I'll add them up, and with this system the joke with the smallest amount was the best, and therefore got first in the final video in the order. Yeah, so much to that. Let's go on. Logo I already showed you. Thumbnail you've already seen. Now we'll go into the script. These are just like backups. You can see here at the end, this is my naming scheme. At the end of each clip you can see the date in which it was made. You can see here it goes at early back as to April 2021. Wow, which is quite a lot of time back. Let's just open it and have a little look. I'm just as interested as you, because I haven't seen this in a while. Here I always made this little remark when I started scripting this. And you can see already there were just some ideas for the opening and one joke, the Sans joke. Oh, and the outro, I already had some ideas. Huh. It's still quite different from the final product. Here I've had the idea to put, instead of the Family Guy joke at the end, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, to put the scene from the Joker movie. You think this is funny? And yes, I do, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So let's have a look at the final iteration of the script. And you can already see here it's gotten quite a lot. These are just some, these ideas sometimes just come out of nowhere into my mind. And I just, and usually it goes like this, that I write them up into my notes from my cell phone. And later I would put these notes up and write them then into this script. And then quite some time later I would open the script and then work on the individual joke. I would look which clips I need, I collect then the clips, and then I start editing. That's the usual workflow. Okay, so you have seen now the structure and the script. Let's start talking about the opening, because as you can see here we have intro and intro 2. Oh, what could that be about? Well, it's quite easy. Intro number 2 is the final intro that's used. You can see it. Wow, these are quite some folders. So here you can see the panorama, which I have, I didn't export it. I always took little snippets which were like this part, this part, this part, this part, and then I've put them together and always had to delete the part where Goku would be, if you know the video which this is from. But with some editing, you can see here this is not the final product, because this still here has the sun. This is the final one. Yeah. Okay. Genau, this is the technical aspects that you also can see in the final video. This path here is actually almost the correct one. If you can see here, it's almost exactly overlapping, which is quite funny, like little Easter eggs like these. And if you look here at the date, I've put here the actual date when I've made this. Little Easter eggs like these. Not a lot of people will get this. You will get this now, since you've heard it from me. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Here's also the little TV banner. This was quite hard to make because of these deformations for the CRT TV. If Patchy from the SpongeBob episode had a flat screen TV back in the day, this would be a little bit easier. But since he had like I said, the CRT TV, I had to make these little bumps here. give it a little it's called a fish eye effect, I believe. Here you can see the character. This was also very hard to make. It took quite some time because I had to cut out each individual frame and then put them in Premiere back together so they can move correctly. Then I had to figure out to move them at the correct speed so the movement would look natural, and all these little things. This was really hard. Yeah, this part was also hard when Goku would tear up into individual parts. So here you can see that. It's just Goku, but in how many? 7 individual parts. Let's look here. Is everything, anything interesting? Yeah, here this is from the behind the scenes of the movie Lightyear from Disney. Here are some production shots. Here's the infamous leaked image from Gravity Falls, which was actually false. They made this on purpose. Yeah, I took these things just to have a little idea what I could do to put on the screen, because I wanted this to look like a test screen, just like Patchy in the SpongeBob episode said. Yeah, you already have seen what came out of this. Let me show you here this again. Here, this bunch here came up from these ideas I've put there together. Okay, so here's the CRT TV. I had to crop this here out so I could fit my picture into it. Okay, so back to the intro. I said something about the intro. Why is it intro number 2? Well, the original idea for the intro was to make this intro with a screen from The Incredibles. My first idea was actually to put Mr. Incredible here, have him sit down, put things onto the keyboard and have this whole screen here rebuilt by me and putting any sort of Dragon Ball references onto this. Like you can already tell this idea wasn't completely figured out, but I just thought something like Mr. Incredible would start the video but first had to look it up and would come through any sort of funny things like let's say porn is on the screen, or he would had a lot of commercials popping up, like any Windows XP errors or viruses or something like this. And this is like the only thing that really came out of this, because I stopped working onto this. I'll tell you later why. And here you can see this is the original, and this is my remade thing, the thing I have rebuilt. You can see here the bend. The screen in the actual movie is a little bit bent. Mine is flat. This was one of the reasons why I stopped working on this intro, because I didn't really had an idea how to make this in Premiere or After Effects. Like, there surely would have been a way if I've sticked to this idea, but it was too much figuring out to me, to be honest. And so I just stopped here. And let me just quickly open the Photoshop project for you so you can see how far I've come. And while it's opening, I can tell you why I also stopped working onto this. It's a very simple reason, because all of my Dragon Ball Z yearly parodies always open with a joke that is somehow related to SpongeBob. Like, seriously, if you look back into all the previous parts, every opening joke, like before the title screen comes, is always somehow related to SpongeBob. But this joke has absolutely nothing to do with SpongeBob, and I didn't really know how to put SpongeBob in there, like make him sit here and put this and enter onto the keyboard. That would be a lot of work, and also I'm sure wouldn't look nice. And so I just thought, you know what, nice idea, but screw it all, and make a different intro. And looking back onto this, I think it was a good idea to just abort and make the different intro, the intro you now in the final product. And I'm honestly quite happy how it turned out. So yeah, no regrets there. Good, that was the alternative intro. If you couldn't tell, I have here printed out a little checklist to make this a little bit more structured. So now the next part on the agenda is to show you the first and the last joke that I've made. And this is quite easy because we just have to follow these numbers. They are really in the order in which I came up with the idea, but also in the order, or almost in the order, in which I've actually edited these jokes. So the very first one, Megalovania. Like, don't ask me how I came up with this stupid joke. Here you can see the flame. Yeah, that's actually everything I've needed just to make this flame here without a background. So I could. Here's the Premiere project, Dragon Ball, and there it is. Actually, now that I've thinking about it, I know how I came up with the idea, because this idea came to my mind when I was scripting the Dragon Ball yearly parody. Like, not the Dragon Ball Z yearly parody, but the only Dragon Ball yearly parody I've had. And about the time when I've uploaded it, like when the video was finished and uploaded and everything, I came up with this idea. And I thought, man, too bad that I couldn't put it into the Dragon Ball yearly parody. But then I thought, you know what? Just put it into the next entry of the yearly Dragon Ball Z parody. And yeah, that's how this little angel here came up. And if you know the outro of the yearly parody, I mean of this new entry, the Dragon Ball Z yearly parody 23-24, if you know the outro, this joke made a really beautiful outro animation, which we'll also have a look later. But this is this. And now let's have a look. I keep opening this, I don't know why. So now let's go over to the last joke that I've scripted. Like, the very, very last joke that I've worked on would be, of course, the outro, the post-credit, storyboard, credit roll, and so, but let's not count this. The last actual joke here was the FDP joke. FDP is a German political party. Yeah, you can see I've used clips from Dragon Ball Super episodes, from the Resurrection F movie. Here's the music video. Here's the clip of the Wolf of Wall Street. I've took this cover to make, here you can see, to make this font here, and this, no, not this font, but this image like I've built up myself in Photoshop. Here should be, look, here's the original. Let's open the project file. And here you can see, again, I had to do something with the perspective. Here's the logo. Yeah, nothing too special here, to be honest. But yeah, this is the last joke that I've scripted, that I came up with. And also a little detail I'd like to point out. This is the first Dragonball Z Parody where I didn't had to cut any jokes that I've made. Like, let's say, except for the intro number 1, which you've already seen. But excluding this, I was able to make every joke that I've scripted. This is something special, to be honest, because if you've seen the behind the scenes or the outtakes of the other yearly Dragon Ball Z parodies, every entry up until now had some jokes scripted that I just couldn't realize and had to cut. But this one don't have any. That's very cool. But just because it don't have has any cut content, it doesn't mean it has alternatives. And here I have a whole folder with alternatives, which we'll later also have a look upon. But first, we'll go to the next topic. So now that we are in the output folder, I will also give you here a little tour. So here are the parts that are in English. These are the alternatives. These are the whole stitched together videos. Not alternatives, but like work in progress, you could say. Here are the teasers and the trailers that I've already uploaded. These are just like in the last entry of the yearly Dragon Ball Z parodies, just a cross for upload testing and nobody stealing my content. And here are the 4x3 bars. Because why did I use or needed them? I've needed them because I have tried to make every joke, and so every individual joke is always completely 60x9, so no bars, or completely 4x3, so with these black bars. There's no changing within the joke. That was very important to me. Because of course for some videos I would put newer animation and older animation together, and by that, by proxy, some have 4x3, others have 60x9, and changing the aspect ratio within the joke would be very annoying to me, looking back on older Dragon Ball Z yearly parodies. And so I have decided to make 4x3 completely within the jokes or 60x9 completely within the joke. Yeah, so that's the background there. Here under UT you have Untertitel, which is subtitles. And here you have the German ones and the English ones. Here you have the one that has to go up because at the bottom would be something. This is actually only here in the English version of the Porsche Panamera clip. These are called in German Hochsteller, So literally subtitles you have to put up. Yeah, so that's this. Here, Titel, Beschreibung and text are just the title, the description and the text I would put in for the German and English video. Here are the completely videos, the one that went up to YouTube. And you can see here 3.7 gigs and 3.6 gigs for the English version and for the German version. Yeah, and here are all the individual clips. I don't know, there isn't that much more to say. Maybe for the last this year, here's the number, this is the name I would just come up with, just like as a reference, so I would know which joke this actually is. 1080 is the aspect ratio, so you know this already from YouTube, I think. 23.976 FPS, frames per second. This maybe is something to explain. So you probably know from gaming 60 FPS is the one to go, 120 FPS and so on and so forth. But for the, or let's say like this, the Dragon Ball footage that I have is from the Dragon Ball Blu-rays, and the usual frame rate for Blu-ray movies or episodes are always 23.976 frames per second. Don't ask me why, it is just like this. And if I look at my content, almost all of the Dragon Ball footage is in 23.976 frames per second. And so I've decided to just roll with it and use this frame rate through the whole project. This was quite a good idea looking back, because always using the same frame rate, even if you sometimes have to drag up or drag down the footage to this frame rate, also talking about other elements like audio that are used from other media, is always good to stick to one frame rate, and I've just decided to use this because, like I said, most of the Dragon Ball content has this frame rate. And later I found out that YouTube, at least internally, would convert the whole clip back to 30 FPS, so which is not the best workflow in the world, to work completely in 23.976 and later have it converted to 30 FPS by YouTube. But that's just how it is. Maybe I will look at the future if it's possible to work in 30 FPS completely. We'll have a see. We'll have a look. That's how it's said. Okay. So the next part on the agenda I wanted to show you would be to show you the project files of my two most edited clips, which would be number 34, Miraculous, and which number is it? Give me a little minute to look it up. Number 20, Erwachsene, or Adults in English. These two clips were the most hard to edit, and if you know the clip, you already know why. But let's just have a little look inside here. So of course, because this behind the scenes is in English, we'll go to the English version. But here, as you can see, the German version isn't that different. And yeah, as you can see here from the text of the individual clips, I've put together a lot, or let's say I used a lot of different Dragon Ball material. Like this is Ball Movie 3, this is Z Movie 7, this is Dragon Ball Z episode 118 and stuff like this. Like it's almost from the complete spectrum of the Dragon Ball franchise. Here's the Broly movie number 2. Yeah, but looking back, it wasn't actually that special. Here you can see this was not the first time, but the first time for me to use a lot of these, I don't know what they are called in English. I just call them sub-projects. Like to have one whole project and then use it in a... no, I'm sorry, not project, but sequence, a sub-sequence, that's what it's called. So to have one whole sequence here, you can see this is just the frame of him looking, and then have this sequence in another sequence. Like if I turn off these layers here, you can see that it is like the background, and then I've put on top these mouth flaps to, you know, I've tried it as good as I can. They are not always perfect, but for a YouTube video it should be good enough to lip sync them. To lip sync the mouse to the text. So here you can see for this movie I've used a lot of different material. Here is from the Owl House. Here's from the Loud House. Here is from the Santa Claus TV series, which is, I think, a lot more popular here in Germany than it is in English speaking countries. At least I've never met any other YouTuber that have spoken about this series. Here you have Star vs. the Forces of Evil, the pilot episode. Here you have also a series which I think isn't that popular in English speaking countries. It's Beyblade. Gravity Falls. And at last, of course, I had to put the Very Odd Parents here because this audio is of course from the Very Odd Parents, so it's a nice full circle here. And then here I have one sub layer above this just to switch between the series that I've put before it at guest series. Yeah, let's open here the subsequence. Yeah, that's that. And now let's have a see or have a look at the Miraculous clip, which would be number 34. Here isn't anything to talk about. Yeah, this shot here was very hard. I wanted to use this because it's really a nice shot when like this joke is that here Videl would be miraculous. But this damn text here, and unfortunately I wasn't able to somehow remove it with layering or something. It just didn't line up well, which was really sad for me. But I couldn't find a way to like overlay this text here, so I couldn't use this shot, but I really wanted to use it. It's really sad. Yeah, and here is just the text that you see at the end. Like the miraculous part here is just stolen. Like I just took it from Google. But this part here is colored by me. It has the colors of the Saiyamans. And of course here the subtext. Tales of the Saiya Squad or Geschichten der Saiya Squad. And I think little details like these, like putting your own font there and something like this, just make each clip a little bit more appealing to the viewer. Like here's the Photoshop project of this. Here you can see that I've built this part here with the font that I've used. What is it called? It's called Lobster 1.4. Let's write here Lobster 1.4. And I don't know what this is. Of course, yeah, this is this. That's the miraculous thing. Genau, right. I've overlaid it like this. And what is this? Interesting. I don't know why this black part here is missing. I believe because there was something I didn't want to show, but I don't know what specifically it was, but it doesn't matter. So here would be the premiere project for Miraculous. Here at the beginning is already interesting, like this plane didn't exist here above in the original shot. Like this would be the actual original. And I've just cropped it from another scene. But I just thought that stitching it together would look more beautiful. Like instead of having two different scenes introducing the helicopter and the drivers here. So this is just normal stuff, just some cutting. The next interesting part would be here, if you can see this white glow here is the same glow that I've used for the joke where Vegeta is intimidated of Goku because he is hard, like the clip from SpongeBob. If you know what I mean, this joke, it's the same glow. So here would be the next interesting thing, because I've made this up, like this square here isn't from the original, it's something different. That's like the original. And I've remade it like this, because this isn't that interesting. Instead of this clip where Videl is like moving her head against Gohan, which is also just reversed, like she actually looks to Gohan and not away from him. But as you can hear in the text, the finger says, I look away, so she looks away, you know? Yeah, it's little details like this that I think make this parody worth watching. So this is a scene that I've sit on for quite a while, because I did not really know how to put this together, like these individual clips, if I want to use them at all, and if I want to use them, how to use them. Like you will later see in the alternative clips what ideas I had to show these. But I finally came up with this, and I think I can be quite happy with it. It's okay. And then at the end, of course, here but in German it's called Dia Show. Maybe it's an English also called like this, I don't know. Like the picture slideshow. Yeah, slideshow I believe it's called. It's also a subsequence. Let's have a look into it. Oh, look, it's the same slideshow 3 times repeated. Oh, I didn't know that. But here, if I enter this subsequence, you can see there are quite a lot individual frames that I took, which also took me quite some time to put together to show, to find all these clips. So yeah, like I always keep saying in these behind the scenes, it's really taking a lot of time to make these clips. Like, you as a viewer just see this video, okay, 20 minutes, that's it, you chuckle a little bit and that's it maybe. But for me, like I said, it's 18 month of work and so many little details that sometimes get overlooked, for better or for worse. Yeah. And as you can see here, the dia show with every beat of the music gets a little bit smaller. Like here is a beat, so it gets a bit smaller. Here is a beat, it gets again smaller. And here is a beat, so it disappears, and simultaneously the text appears. If you see a lot of my content, you will notice that I really like this to cut onto the music, basically. Like, have the music be my guide for when to cut. I'm not always doing this, but I sometimes do this, and here is a very good example of when and how I use it for great effect. Yeah, that's this. Now we'll go to the next part of the agenda and we'll have a look at the outro, so specifically at my beautiful drawings. Thank you again to everyone who participated into these drawings. You can find their Instagram in the credit roll. So here we have, you can see here, I originally planned to have 10 individual slides, but I ended up cutting number 6, 5 and 4. We'll later have a look at them, but first we'll look at the 7 which were used in the video. Here we'll have number 1, which is the one underwater with sands. Here you can see it without the water effects that I've used later in the Premiere project, which for some reason was insanely long to render because of all the water effect and all the wave that had to be rendered and all. But yeah, here you can see behind all this green stuff, there are these here. And they are looking fine, but I just thought repeating the same over and over and over, maybe just put them in the background and have at least 1 or 2 visible, and that's good. So here you have Goku, which I've drawn myself. Of course with the... of course I've used the template, I didn't draw it completely by myself. Yeah, so that's the beautiful background here from my sister. She drew it. And this is Sans, which my sister also draw, of course with the template. Here you have him in his normal state. Here you have him in this Megalovania Fire Eye state. I'm sorry, I've never played the game, I just know that Sans is a meme. That's all I can work with. Good, so that's that. Number 2. Here you can see that the background is actually only one drawing and that's all. And in Premiere I did this, I repeated the background by just mirroring the image and have like, wait a minute, I can show you. Like, I didn't use the usual aspect ratio for the background, but I did one big panorama background. Why isn't it loading? It should be loading. Here it is. Okay. So number 2. Here once again sub sequences. Here's the background. So yeah, here you can see it's one big panorama, which doesn't move at all. It's just the background image that you've just saw. Here's one part, and here it is just mirrored. And then going here into the real clip, you can see that this panorama is just panning here. Yeah, that's one technique I've used. Here's the street, the text, the clouds, the mountains. Yeah, I've colored them myself. This was the original background, but I've wanted to have them a little bit more colorful. And that's that. Number 3, the space, which was the first slide that were finished. Here is the rocket ship, which actually isn't drawn by myself or someone drawn. It's just one image that I've took from the internet. Here are the flames, which are also just pictures from the internet. Sometimes I have had to cheat a little because I didn't wanted to draw everything by myself. So here are the planets. Oh no, I'm sorry, no, not the planets. Here are the planets. Oh yeah, right, actually there only was one planet, and I've just recolored it and made it bigger or smaller to give the idea that these are different planets. But actually it is just this drawing. This is the original drawing, and then just recolored. Yeah, that's that. We'll skip these over. I'll talk about them later. So here we have this beautiful image, which is the only one that my mother didn't like when I showed her the final product. Which is understandable, to be honest. Someone dying isn't the most positive thing in the world. So just give me a little moment, because this here... Why is this part still missing? There are some layers which aren't supposed to be there. Oh, okay, I see. Ah, right, there we go. All right. So let's put this one up. So here's just the passenger. This is the car. Here we go to the interesting part, the background. So these are little hints to Naruto and One Piece. Thought it was just a neat idea. So this, yes, up here is of course my little part here. Back. So here you have the date. I don't know if a lot of you recognize this, but a lot of these slates, or basically all slates, are based on jokes that are made in this video. And this slate here is based on the joke that Chichi said that with the audio from Family Guy, that she killed a passenger in 2002, a jaywalker. So here, of course, I had to put the date 2002 here, just as a little nod to this. The 25th November is actually my birthday, so that's a neat little Easter egg. But not 2002, that's not my birth year. And the clock isn't any Easter egg that I know of. I just put random numbers into there. It was just important to me to be very early in the morning, so nobody would recognize when you kill somebody. And here is the last Easter egg of this slate. The slate actually looks like this. This is the original. So the original that my friend has drawn for me was at day, or let's say in the morning. But it was important for me, as I already said, that it is at night. So I changed the background myself, put the sun to the moon and put little stars here. And you can see it's kinda a different vibe there. Yep, so that's that. Here at the beach, nothing too special. This is here the Gero Wilson ball from the movie Castaway. Yep, here is a little Patrick from SpongeBob on the beach. Here is nothing too special to show you. That's this. Number 9 would be the jump. So you can see the quality difference from the drawings. And number 9 and slate number 9 and slate number 10 are made by my friend who is arguably the best, or let's say the most skilled drawer or artist, the most skilled artist of us four who worked on this. And you can already see here why these textures and all this stuff looks really neat. So let's look at this. Here you have Hoi in all of his positions, jumping from the tower. Here you have the I don't know what this is called. Let's say just the tower, the structure of the tower. This stuff here wasn't planned, like it wasn't scripted, it was just an idea I came up with while editing. Like every slate has to be 10 seconds long, and Hoi already jumped like 6 seconds in, and there were like 4 seconds where just nothing happened. And I just thought, you know what, let's make this joke even more absurd and make them like judges from like the Olympic Games and give Hoi a score for the jump, which in my opinion make this joke even a little bit funnier. And yeah, because it was like a last minute edit, I had to draw these, but there's nothing too special because I didn't really draw it. I just made a square and put numbers. I didn't really draw something like with a pencil or a brush. Okay, so that's that. Really, really beautiful and nice work my buddy has made here. Like they are really actually looking really good, just as I've wanted them to look. I've later added this little shape here into their boots. This is a little detail that I've wanted to put in because Saya Woman has these little things in her boots. But yeah, that's this. Saya Man. Yeah, that's this shape. A slate, and now the last slate, which is also a very, very neat looking one. I really, really like how this came out. One thing I want to show you is that I've made some edits here to the costume of him, because these little details here, his green gloves, his green capes, and this green boots weren't done by my buddy. They were later made by me. So here it is. Like this is the image that I've got from my buddy. And it is looking nice, don't get me wrong. He did an excellent, great job there. But if you compare these two, like his costume is way too dark, which is actually more fitting for the Cat Noir from the Miraculous series. He is basically all black there. But I thought, hey, you know what, just give him a little more highlights here, just to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. So now I have prepared something nice for you. Here you can see a side-by-side comparison. So here on the right you have the final product. Yeah, and here on the left you have something like a, let's say, a storyboard, like a rough idea that I sent to my friend to show them, hey look, this is what I'm looking for, can you make it a little better looking, can you do this for me? So the storyboard is written completely by me and I didn't really put any effort in it. I just draw a really rough mock-up, so don't judge me for my art skills in the storyboard. It is really just there. Its only purpose is to give my buddies an idea of what I'm looking for. So let's look for a comparison. So this is just the general idea. Grundsätzlicher Stil, like the style guide, you could say. And you might be recognizing these three screenshots here. These are from NPC Carlson's Smashed Bandicoot outro. And I really liked this outro, its animation, its style. And I didn't try to copy it, but I used it, as you can see, as a style guide, like a general idea. I wanted it to look like it is animated. Like you can see, it is done in the computer, but you should always be able to tell that somebody has actually drawn it. Like it is something from a, not like a real artist, but like it's a drawing from your, let's say, 6-year-old sister, or like this. And I mean it not in a mean way, but in a nice way. So that's just the idea. Okay, so here's the first comparison, the one in the space, and you can see already by that point, all the assets were already finished, but didn't were placed correctly or animated. But the assets were already there at that point. Like that was the first slate that was finished. Then you can see here, this was also almost finished at that point. But you can see later in the editing process that I've put together some more details, like this sign here, or Patrick here, or the little Wilson gyro ball. Like you can see here, he is transparent, which was one of the ideas that we toyed with, but I think with a little white it looked better with the Wilson symbol here. And if you can actually look really close, this little red dot is also blinking in the finished product. So now we get to the stuff that weren't finished at all. So I really had to give a rough idea of what I'm looking for. So you can see here, these are the water bubbles. This is supposed to be Goku. This is supposed to be Sans here with his eye. I can see now that it's actually the wrong eye in the rough sketch. And these were supposed to be stones or something like that. So yeah, this was like the very early idea. But it was always the idea to have Goku like coming from the left up, coming down here into the water, and having Sans first as a skull and then later as actual Sans. Here were some more ideas, like from the actual show, and some Google images of what the underwater cave were supposed to look like, just to give a general vibe of how it's supposed to be looking. And then of course we needed to have a Goku. This was then later done by me. This was actually the last assets that were drawn in general for the outro slates. And as you can see, this here is just a mirrored image of this Goku here. I just like how he looks. It just looks so derpy a little bit, but also very cute, to be honest. But when I've drawn it and mirrored the image, it was a little hard here with the symbol. But then I just redraw it here on the other side, and that's it. The underwater effects, they were actually, if you know a little bit more about my videos, they were from the Cars 2 YTP collab. I've first used this effect, and it was almost clear from the beginning when I finished the Cars 2 YTP collab that I needed to use this underwater effect for this slate. This was like clear from the very beginning for me when I first put it all together in Cars 2. Here were a little style guide for Sense. This was also just one by one redrawn by my sister. And here the little flame on his eye. Here's the actual skull from the episode, like the joke. That was always as a little reference there. So let's move on to the next slate. Here it is. So here you can also see at that point the car was already almost finished. You see at the end, when putting it all together, I put on some finishing touches, like putting a second car, which is literally just a copy. Having here little accents, like this is a more dark red, this is a more light red. Here you can see it's all just red. Here on the wheels, these things, they were red. I made them gray. It made more sense. Here the yellow was a bit darker. I put it a little more light to it. I've put a rectangle here just to have like a beam of light. And here the windshield also. You know, all these small little details that really make the effects, the assets look really good. But here, yeah, you can see these were the original looks of the mountains. Like I already said, I've put some color onto it to make them look a little bit more distinct. A little bit more good looking. Some trees, some bushes, they were already there. The street was originally, because it was hand drawn, not really a straight line. At least for the top, I've had to do it with Photoshop, like with the rectangle tool. With the square tool. So it was one straight line, so there were better. So I could put better apart the background and the street, because if you look really close, they are scrolling in different speeds. That way the background is even more separated from the foreground. Yeah, the layering was also very not hard, but something I really had to look out for. Like here you see the text, therefore there are the clouds and the background, mountains 1, mountain row 1, mountain row 2, then the trees, then Goku, Chi-Chi, and against the trees. Like these are, I don't know, I didn't count, 6, 7, 8 layers. Like, yeah. Yeah, it took some time, but it came out really neat. So now we are going to the slates that didn't made it into the final cut. Before this, as you can see, the Goku drawing was already finished at that point. But the idea was to have at least Chibi Gohan or a Chibi Piccolo also in the car, like in reference to the jokes where Piccolo and Goku are driving. But unfortunately, nobody had the time to draw it, and I was completely out of the picture, like no chance that I was able to do that. But luckily, one of my friends had an alternative look for Chi-Chi, and so I just, for a different slate, for the slate in the city. And so I thought, you know what, let's put just Chi-Chi into the car. It doesn't really make sense, but let's just roll with it. Right, so now to the slate that didn't made it into the final cut. As you can see here, I've already drawn the background. This background is by me, like it's just the desert, here's a rock, these are cacti. Here I wanted Goku to stand, like have his back. And here I wanted to have a repeat 2-frame animation of Cell hitting Gohan. But unfortunately nobody had time to draw this or this. I mean, I'm not really sad about it. None of these 3 slates that didn't made it into the final cut are that awesome. I'm really happy how the slates turned out that made it into the final cut. So that's that. Now the different slate. Number 6, Explosion. This here again you can see very rough drawing by me, but just to give a general framing idea, like here would be the Z fighters, you have here the hills in the background, and you would have little Chaozu here. Okay, here the background, like the mountains, and so here are just general ideas. Then you would have Chibi Nappa and Chibi Chaozu, and yes, I've wanted to give him a little beard and make him explode, but looking back at it, it maybe was a good idea to not have it made into the final cut. Who knows what groups would have been offended by that joke, so let's pretend I've never wanted to make this. So here we have a joke that made it into the final cut. Again, the car for the storyboard, I've just took it from one slide to the other, just as an example. Yeah, here the general city with buildings, here the street, the car, and the passenger. I didn't know who I wanted to have as a passenger, but my buddy just came up with a random person. Like, I don't know if he was inspired by anything for this person, but I don't know who this might be. I don't know, maybe you can recognize who she is. Yeah, so here just some ideas of what a skyline might look like with I don't know what this is called in English. In German it's called Zebrastreifen, like zebra lines, like a passenger walk. Yes, here just some ideas for this person. Like I've wanted that's why I put here the color wheel. I wanted to make them stand out from the background color wise. Yes, and here's Chibi Goku, Chi-Chi. Like I said, my buddy made one version of Chi-Chi here for this slate and one spare version. And like I said, this version was very good to have for the other slate. Then we have this here. This was made by my other buddy. Like I said, a very skilled artist. And here was my idea, like to have the two Saiyaman float here. A little bit, the floating is inspired by the Fairy Odd Parents, like they would always float in a place. Like that's not usually a thing that's happening in Dragon Ball, but it's a thing in Fairy Odd Parents, and I just wanted to have that happening here. And here would be Hoi, and he would have his his jump from the Tokyo Tower. One of my favorite slates. Here are just some general No, not general. These are screenshots from the movie where this is happening. To be as close as possible to that. Here are just some illustrations from Hoi. And of course, I've had to Google how a backflip would actually look like. And I've circled the positions that I've wanted him to draw. Like I already said, later this wasn't scripted. I came up with this during the editing process because there were some spare time. I just draw myself like little slates where they would give points for the jump of Hoi, like plop. I wanted to have them to draw here little hands, but like I said, I'm a really, really bad artist when it comes to drawing. And that's why I decided, you know what, it doesn't really look that fine without the hands, but let's just roll with it. And don't use the hands. Yeah, here, Chibi Saya Man and Saya Woman. And now on to the final and favorite slate, which would be this one. And yeah, I've already talked about it. I really, really like it. I like the background. I like how the text is looking like it is actually graved into the stone, like his hands and his cape. And genau, right here, this was the frame that I used for reference because I really wanted to use this. I really liked it. And it came out really, really great. My favorite slate of them, to be honest. And here I've already told my buddy, hey, when you are drawing Chibi Saya Man, be prepared that you need to recolor them in the miraculous color scheme for a different slate. Yeah, like I already said, I had, like, if you see the costume of Cat Noir, he's basically just all black, just his eyes are colored. And the drawing my buddy sent me of Saya Man Noir, I'd say, was also almost just black. And then I've decided to recolor little accents like his gloves or his cape to have a little bit more green on his costume to make it look a little bit better. So, and I'm realizing now that I've told you that there are 3 slates missing, but the storyboard just has 2. What happened to the 3rd? Well, like if you look here, it's number 4 and number 6. There was number 6. Like, where's number 5? So number 5, I've wanted to draw myself, and that's why I've never made a storyboard, because I for myself know what I want it to look like. And number 5 would have been like a place where you can pizza. You would have Mr. Satan work there, and he would stand on the left, Chibi Mr. Satan, and on the right there would be a oven where a pizza would be baked, and on the side of the oven there would be like a little text made by, or whatever, you know, these texts that are in every slate. This was supposed to be made by me, but generally because of time I wasn't able to do it, unfortunately. I think it would have looked quite funny, because there aren't that much to draw. There would be a lot to do with the square tool in Photoshop. And this slate, of course, was based on the joke where Krillin and Mr. Satan are on a call and he's asking him, are you working at Pizza Castle now? And that slate would then show him working at Pizza Castle. Like, I would have put on the wall a little sign, welcome to Pizza Castle, or something like that. That would have been quite funny, but like I said, unfortunately no time. So, and now as the last topic of this behind the scenes, we'll have a look, as I promised, at all the outtakes and alternatives that I've had. So, and we will start with Miraculous. Here you can see different versions, and we will just start with the first version. And the first version was I muted the audio so you can hear me better. So you can see this was just a really early sketch up, like I've drawn the instructions what I've wanted to show on the screen here. That's usually something that I do when I work on greater projects, I'd say, like project with a lot of different picture material. And here you can see it in the early stages. This was the idea for the theme song part. Just have scenes of Saya woman here float through the screen. And you can also see here as placeholders, I didn't really know if I wanted or not wanted to use them, to use screens from Budokai Tenkaichi 3 where you could fight as Saya woman. Yeah, this was the earliest idea. Now here to the versions, and these really do only differ here in the at the chorus. So here is just again the same. So in version 3 I've only worked on the background. Like this was one of the ideas, not having anything at all on top of the screen. But I didn't really like that. So in version 4, wait a second. Oh, this is okay. So this is just the main part here. Okay, so here you can see way too much floating around the screen. This is too much. You couldn't really focus on anything of that. Way too quick. This wasn't really the one I wanted to go with for obvious reasons. But this is just the process of coming up with these things. Version 5. So here you can see the opacity was a bit higher. The movement was a bit slower, so you could more focus on these things. But still quite a lot. Look here. Especially here, this is still way too much. Way too much. So 6 is again the whole thing. And here you can see I came up with almost the thing that we ended up with. Like if you've seen this here, the hit has also a little flash screen, like now. For 1 or 2 frames there's just to probably to give a bit more impact to the hit, just a flash screen, like the whole picture became just white. But that distracted a lot, to be honest, so I just cut it out. Here you can see the deer show. Oh yeah, the slideshow. And you can see here in this version I didn't came up with the idea to make the slideshow shrink, fitting to the music. I just made it fade out. And you can also see that the logo isn't really finished at all. So version 7 should be basically almost the final one. Yeah, here you can see. Yeah. So version 7 is basically the final one, I'd say. So I wrote some notes here. Yeah, so in version 7 the flash frame was still there. The overlay was almost final. The slideshow was final. And the logo was actually zoomed in a lot, which pixelated the logo in version 7, so I've also had to finalize that. So let's go here quick. This is the opening. This is like a very early version. Like you can see, these are basically just 3 frames that I've cut Goku out of and then just repeated it. And you can see here the background is just looping the whole time. And you can see here SpongeBob from the actual scene where I took the music from is there as a reference. So this was like the very early first version. Here you can see it's from August of 2021. So this was like really very early. But I like to call this a proof of concept. So basically just see if I could really do this walking animation, if I could squish and squeeze Goku like I've wanted him to be. And yeah. That's the intro. This is the no joke clip, and I believe the only difference here is that you can see the last part of Krillin when he says this is no joke. His mouth is like sad, and in the final version his mouth is smiling. This is the same for German and English. You can see here DE for Deutschland, Germany, and EN for English. So let's see the crossover.
Got your crossover episode. Looks like you finally got your crossover episode.
So this was just one scene that I didn't use. You see here, I've used here a different cry scene. I like this more because he actually had really tears here, but he didn't use his mouth at all. That's why I used a different scene. So here we have the little Einsteins, and there shouldn't be that much of a difference in terms of the picture. But the difference here is in the music. I obviously can't show it to you because then my video would get copyrighted. But in the final version, you can hear at this scene you hear this little and this is like a little music accent to switch from this to this. And in the beginning I had like 2 cover versions of Little Einsteins. One which is in the final version of the text, but one version with the melody of Kleine Einsteins. And both together really were a quite pleasant hearing, but YouTube is YouTube and it got copyright striked, and that's why I had to cut the melody part. But unfortunately the video version was already finished, and this transition from this to this is just there because it's following the cue from the music, but the music was from the melody cue. And when I had to remove the melody, there wasn't no cue for this transition, if you know what I mean. And so in the final version I've completely deleted the melody audio track except for this little part, just to have this transition make a little bit more sense. Alright. So now number 20, Erwachsene or adults. Yeah, you can see the first few clips of adults were completely different. Here you have seen there was no Super Saiyan transformation forgotten. Right here. This was different. There was one scene missing from all the people in Battle of Gods with Shenron. This was different. This is different. Here I used Avatar as one of the scenes. This is different. I've used Miraculous. So you can see quite a lot of difference. And here was just a proof of concept. Like I've used with Miraculous, like writing on screen what I've wanted to put there. Nothing too interesting. So now we're going to the comedy ball. Like you could say that this was only just a proof of concept. I've just put some video file there that I've had laying around. This was more about the cutting and moving and transitioning to check if it works as I've wanted it to be. So now enemy. I'm muting the track because it's a little bit tricky with the copy strike. Let's find the difference. What is the difference here? Oh yeah, here this kick for Frieza is a little bit different. Oh yeah, I've switched it because you can see this. Because the picture is moving so incredibly fast, this frame here is incredibly pixelated. And this is from the original file that I have. So I've had to use a different scene because this was always bugging me when watching this clip. So save car. What is the difference here? I believe I know what it is. It is just a really minor one. So here you can see the final version has borders around here and here. And also you can see here the text ending is here a hard cut if you look really close. Here it's a hard cut from coming in and coming out of the text. And in the final version this area here, like everything outside, is a different layer and the text goes just under it. So it is a smoother in and out animation. This is the version I've had for the longest time. It also was in the trailer, like the smoking cigarette part here. It really bugged me that the smoke wasn't animated and the cigarette wasn't really correctly in his mouth. Like that's really a last minute edit I've put there, because this was the very, very, very last thing that I've edited except for the outro. Was like a little overhaul of this joke to put animated smoke on the cigarette. So let's see what is different here, because right now I don't really know it. Okay, so you can hear in the audio, this version didn't have the phone effect for some reason.
Entschuldigen Sie, ich habe Sie nicht richtig verstanden. Bitte wiederholen Sie den Satz.
But the rest is completely different. Like this is just the part that I forgot to put the phone effect onto this one line. So this here, I've just wanted to have this. This is a clean version of the joke with the testicles. Like this was never supposed to get into the final video, but I've just wanted to have one completely clean version to have something to show in the outtakes or in the behind the scenes. So let's have a look at this without any effects. Okay, the mouse is a effect. Well, but it's still scary, or at least off-putting with it. Dead eyes, and the effects had really a good, really differentiated it. All right, and the part where I put the American Idol animation actually were supposed to look like this. Krillin's awesome karaoke performance, with a Z of course, because we are looking Dragonball Z. And some of you may have realized, yes, this was a 3-parter of course, that the tequila subtitle doesn't look like the other subtitles. This was an accident that I've decided to put in, or to keep, because for the longest time I've used Adobe Premiere 2019, which had a different style of showing subtitles than Adobe, let's say 2021 or 2022 or 2023. Like, their subtitle styles are different. And the tequila subtitle I've done a long time ago. Like, here you can see it's from January, like it's 12 months ago. Like I said, it has a different style, and I've decided to keep it just to better differentiate from the actual subtitles and this funny subtitle. So that's that. The synchronized joke, I just used a different fusion scene, but I didn't like that this version didn't really fit that well with the music. I just like the newer version, or the version that I've used, because it better flows together. Here you have too many hard cuts. I really didn't like that. So let's have a look what this is. This is just an explanation of what is new. Alright, here number 27, Enemy, Everybody Wants to Be My Enemy, was supposed to be Everybody Wants to Rule the World, but I didn't really find a cover version that wouldn't get copyright restricted. And to be honest, Everybody Wants to Be My Enemy was a little bit more fitting. So here we have a different version of the opening, but this one is way more advanced. This is like from 4 months ago. You can see here the animation is way smoother. The down part here, the technical aspects weren't made yet. Still here SpongeBob for reference. Everything's working fine. And you can see here the animation for falling apart was also a lot of work. This was just one quick solution. But if you know the final version, all the parts are floating around the screen. This was also quite a lot of work. So here you can see the outro slate number 1, one early version of it. Outro slate number 7. Yeah, this was the day version. I already told you I've made this to the night version. Made more sense. So here we have an early version of slate number 1. Right here you can see I've put the text here into this green plant. But it was very hard to see, especially with all the effects. So I've decided to put it here on the rock. It was just one big area without anything on it. So I've decided, you know what, let's put the text right here. We have a lot of room. And here we have the trailer. This seems to be the same. The early version of the cigarettes, like I've already told you. Yeah, the only difference here is that the text is just not done yet. And now for the very last part, thing I wanted to show you is this little clip here. This was never scripted or never supposed to be in the final video, and it isn't in the final video, but it's just one stupid little joke that I've made together with my friends when joking around on Discord.
Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go.
Up to the sky, up and down.
Okay, let's go.
That's the joke. It's really stupid. Yeah, so that's for the behind the scenes. I hope you were a little bit entertained. Your questions have been answered. You had a neat little look behind the scenes of this massive project. I'm really happy if you've watched the final video. Also very happy if you've watched the behind the scenes. Yeah, what can I say? Have a nice day.